Hi, everybody. So hopefully you're going to be able to hear me in a minute here. Got to turn my volume down. I always come on early when I have to do the computer stuff, so hopefully you'll be able to see me and hear me pretty soon. If you give me just a second, I'm working on getting my second computer ready so I can see your comments, hopefully. Oh, got a few people, so make sure you say something when you come in. Here we are. Second here. Oh, I see Mitzi. Hi, Deb. Hi, Mitzi. Yep, so make sure you say something when you come in so I know you can you hear me okay? Seems like my microphone was a little weird tonight. I can hear you just fine and see the screen. Awesome. Okay. Sometimes I have a little trouble getting started, and Facebook has been doing a lot of changing. And so I'm still, oh yeah, Jackie, isn't it a beautiful day? Yeah, it's really nice. It's got a little warm in my sewing room this afternoon, but yes, everybody can hear me. Awesome. Okay, that's what I want to hear. I like to get on just a little bit early um, when I do the computer stuff because I have to have two computers when I do this because I can't see your comments on the one I'm working on. So I have to have my second computer, but I use my tablet and it works very well. So how's everybody been doing today? Is everybody having a good day? Hi, Ellen. Hi, Jananne. Hi, Jackie. Jackie, I hope you're doing well. Mary. Oh, hi, Mary. Hi, Pat. Saw Jackie. Oh, Jackie Shaw too. Hi, Donna. So we're gonna make some little gift tags. I did this class actually probably 10 years ago, and it was a really fun class. It was one of the old Floriani classes that Kathy Quinn did, so I've kind of adapted this from Kathy's class. But when I made these tags, oh, you made my little USB. Aren't those fun to do, Denise? They turn out really cute. They're nice gifts. You always need something to put your USB sticks in. Um, so when I made these little gift tags years ago, I got the class and I started making them. And she had made them with cardstock on one side so she could write on the paper. But I didn't have any luck with that cardstock at all. So I redid the whole class, and there was some things that just didn't work for me in it, and I kind of rewrote the entire class. And I actually use fabric on both sides of these gift tags. And then what I do is I just use like a pigment marker, like a fabric marker, or a thin Sharpie marker, and just write the name on the back of the tag. So that worked really well. And if you use cotton, like Kona cotton, which is what I used on it, that works really well with the markers. So that's how I did them, is with fabric instead of with the paper on one side, because she used this paper and I couldn't keep it in. It wouldn't stay in. It would just fall out all the time. So, hi, Marilyn. Hi, Lynn. Getting people in here. So I'll wait just a couple more minutes. So I've got some pictures up on the screen of the one we're going to do tonight is the Happy Holidays. Excuse me. I'm going to have a drink of water. Um, is the Happy Holidays one, and then I did a couple of other ones in the past. I didn't redo these again, but in I also uploaded a folder to the Dropbox. So to get to the Dropbox for this group, you have to go to Sessions on Software, and then um, go to the first post, and then the Dropbox link is there. So that will take you to this Dropbox. So I have the designs and the C2S files for all three of these gift tags in there. And then I also have the instructions on how to make them. So I'll kind of go through the sewing at the end, but I wrote it out on a piece of paper for you. I don't have any written instructions for the video, but I think for the the class, but I think you'll understand. You can just use the video. These are pretty easy to make, and they were really fun. So I just made several of them. I used different little symbols. So we're going to talk about the symbols and um, how to draw this little tag and the lettering and some simple stuff. So it was really fun. And then you can have like custom gift tags. So if you can either write on them with the pens, or I've even just stuck my, I've made them and then I just stick my sticky gift tags on the back of them either way. And then because if you don't want to have somebody's name on it, you can do that. So whatever works for you. Oh, hi Diane. Hi Barb. Oh, hi, Marilyn. Hi, Debbie. So a bunch of people are coming in. That's awesome. Okay. So we're going to make these gift tags tonight, and they're really fun and easy. And then I'm going to also show you how to do the repeat function so that like when I made these, instead of just making one, so we'll digitize one. But when I made these years ago, I wanted to be able to make like 10 at a time. So I used the repeat function in the software. So this is one way that you can like get something quickly repeated so that you can do a whole bunch of them in one hooping. So that's how I made these, is I did them like 10 at a time. So the you can tell the one I did, I redid the design to make sure everything was sewing okay. And you can tell the one that I did just recently because there's no hole punched in the little eyelet. So the other two have been punched. These were done ones that I did years ago and I just had some left. So I took pictures of them too. So those are just some of the options. I mean, you can make them look any way you want. So I just made up three to kind of let you know how they work. So, okay. So let's go ahead and start with the software. So I'm going to go ahead and just close this little picture here. Maybe I'll just minimize it so in case we need to see it again. And we're going to go open up. We're going to be working in Perfect Embroidery Pro. So, our icon now says Embroidery Toolshed. So we're just going to click on Embroidery Toolshed and open up the software here. And then when it opens, and if you're on the internet, now remember, if you're not on the internet, this box doesn't open up. But I am on the internet, obviously. So I'm going to go ahead at the bottom of the screen, the today screen or whatever they call it. At the bottom of it, there's a little button that says create a new design. So that's what I want to do, is create a new design. I'm going to go ahead and bring this open a little bit higher so you can see it better. And the first thing I want to do is make sure that I am in inches. There's times when I go back and forth between millimeters and inches, and I want to be in inches. So I think I am in millimeters right now, actually. So I want to go up here to the top ruler bar. I'm going to right click and then see where it says metric or inches. Metric is checked right now. So I'm going to go ahead and choose inches. And then it puts me back into inches. So that's what I'm going to use for this time. And then I also need a grid. So when I go to draw this little shape that I'm going to draw, I need to have a grid. So, oh, you know what? In fact, when I'm looking at my screen here, I'm actually not even in Perfect Embroidery Pro because I've been playing with I think I've been playing with the lace software. So we need to make sure that we're in the right software as well. So if I look at my icons up here, I can see, oh, I don't have as many as normal. So to make sure and this is what a question I get often, am I in the right software for what I want to do? So in this case, I'm not. So I have to go down here to the bottom right-hand corner and click on the little green shopping cart. And that is all of the software will show up there, all the different models. And you want to make sure that you have, in this case, I want Perfect Embroidery Pro selected as my default. Right now, it's the lace software. So I found Perfect Embroidery Pro. I can click on the little polka dots over here, and then I can make this my default. Now, if you watch the screen, my screen's going to change quite a bit, and I'm going to have all of my icons back. So if you get into something and you're working at it and you think, oh, this doesn't look right, make sure that you are defaulting to the piece of software you want. In my case, Perfect Embroidery Pro. but I had been playing with the lace software the other day, and that's why it was there. So we'll make sure, I think my grid is still set up. So we'll right click again, inches. So we're okay with the inches. And now I want to do a grid pattern because I need something to draw, lines to draw with when I'm making this little tag. So I'm going to, when you right click, you also get the grid settings up here when you right click on the ruler bar. And here's my grid settings. And I want my grid settings set up at 1/4 of an inch. So a 1/4 of an inch is 0.25. So I'm going to type 0.25 in the horizontal and the vertical. And then I'm going to click OK. So then I have 4, as you can see, in the 1-inch squares. You can probably see it. It's large on my screen right now. There are 4 1/4-inch boxes inside my 1-inch box. Okay. All right. So we're going to draw a rectangle first, and to give us something to draw from to help us out. So I use the artwork tool a lot when I draw in this program. The artwork tool is up here towards the top, looks like a pencil with a circle and a square. And we're going to choose the rectangle because I want kind of a rectangle shape. That's the shape of our tag. Okay. So then I've got my rectangle, and I'm just tool, and I'm going to come down here on the screen, and I'm going to kind of click on the top left-hand corner, and I'm going to hold my mouse button down and just kind of draw down towards the bottom right. And it doesn't matter what color, what size it is, because we're going to fix that next. Okay. So I want to get this selected. I go up and get the selection tool to do that. And the last item that you drew or that was done will select by default. So that's what this rectangle is, obviously. And I want to make sure that I have it the size I want it. So I can go over here, since it's selected, in the properties box at the top here, here's all the things that we can do to this rectangle. Well, what I want to do is transform it and make it a different size. So if you can see this little button that says maintain aspect ratio, if I change with that checked, if I change a size, it will change the other size also to keep it in aspect. But in this case, I have certain settings I want. So I am actually going to deselect this so I can put in my own size. And I want it to be 3 inches wide. So we're going to type in 3 in the width since it's the long way. And then I would like it to be 1.8 inches high. And I just kind of measured how big I wanted my tag to be, and that's how I came up with that number. Okay, then I'm going to click apply. And now my rectangle is 3 inches wide and 1.8 inches tall. Okay, now we want to center, I like to center things in my workspace just for my own sake, then I know where I am at all times. So I want to get this centered. So to do that, I've still got my square or my rectangle selected. I'm going to go back up to that ruler bar at the top of the screen, right above the design area. And I'm going to right click again, and I'm going to click on the word center origin, because then it'll put it right in the center for me. And what that means is that if you look on the ruler bars, the center of my rectangle is on the 0 line vertically and horizontally. So then I know where I am, where when I start to draw, I know exactly how big things are. Okay. All right. So second, I've got some like handwritten notes here, so I'm turning my page. So, okay. So this rectangle that we have here is just something for us to use to draw. Okay, it's not going to actually sew because there's no stitches yet, because it's just an artwork piece. So we need to make some stitches now because I need some things to sew out, obviously, now. So I'm going to choose the run tool this time. The run tool looks like this backwards S up here. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to go to my properties box, which is over here. and I want the stitch length to be 3. So when we sew out like in the hoop projects, we need to have like a placement line so we know where things are. So this is going to be our placement line. And I'm going to, actually, this is going to be a tack down line because the way I did this, I made the fabric large enough that it would just basically fill the hoop. So I didn't need a placement line this time. This is going to be my tack down line. So I just eliminated one line because it was so easy to cut the fabrics the right size. And I say that in the instructions for the sewing, so you'll understand. So we're going to go ahead and we made our stitch length at 3. I want the run type, actually, since this is going to be a tack down stitch, I want it to be a 2-ply. I want it to go around it twice because when you're trimming, it's easier to trim against more stitches like that. We want it to be a little more sturdy. And then I'm going to click apply. We haven't started to draw yet, but we just got all of our settings the way we wanted it. And then I'm going to click on the commands tab up here in the properties box. And I want to have a tie in of basic and a tie off of basic. And we've done this before, and I'm going to click apply again. So that way, all of those settings are already applied to what I'm going to draw here in a minute. Okay. And then I would like it to be a different color. So in order to get this a different color, I've got my tool's still on my cursor. I'm going to go down and do one more thing. I'm going to right click on the color number 2 box. And what that will does is that now what I draw will be the second color, or it will be the pink. Okay. All right. So I'm going to begin drawing on the left side of the rectangle and over here on this side. And I want to draw, and I know this sounds a little funny. It's going to be approximate, but you need about a 3/8 inch above the horizontal 0 lines. Remember, we needed that 0 line here. So 3/8 of an inch is like 1.5 grids, because remember, these were 1/4 inch grids. So I'm going to go up from the center on the left 1.5 grid. And I could have set it up at 1/8 inch grids, but it's close enough that it will be fine. Okay. It was a little hard with the 1/8 inch. There were just so many lines, so I didn't like to do it that way. Okay. So I'm going to click right there. So I'm going to start, and I'm on the blue line that is that piece, that artwork. Okay. So we're going to click there. And then I'm going to follow the artwork rectangle you drew, continue down below the 0 line, 3/8 of an inch, or 1.5 boxes, or 1.5 squares. So I'm going to go back to the 0 mark. I'm going to go down 1.5. So I'm still on that left artwork line, and I'm going to click there. So that's like that left-hand side of our tag. Okay. Then I'm going to go over 3/4 of an inch, or 3 grids, from the lower left corner and click. So I'm following my square. So here's 1 grid, 2 grids, and 3 grids. So I'm going to go 3 grids, or 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to click, and I'm on the blue line. I'm following the blue line. We made kind of a triangle out of the corner of it though. Okay. So there, I'm going to click there. And then I'm going to continue along my rectangle that I drew over to the right-hand corner. And I'm going to click in the right-hand corner. Okay, so there's the far right-hand corner. Then I'm going to move up to the top right-hand corner. The top right-hand corner, excuse me. And then I'm going to move to the left, and I'm going to stop 3 squares, or 3/4 of an inch, from the left-hand corner, just like we did. We took the corner out of the one side because we want that tag to have that smaller corner. I'm going to click there, and then I'm going to move back down to where I started, right on top of that little node, and I'm going to click there. And to finish it, I'm going to right click. And then I have the shape of my tag. So there's the, how the tag goes in on the left-hand side and followed my rectangle otherwise. Okay? Making sure I didn't miss anything. So does this make sense to everybody how I did that? I started 1.5 squares above the 0 horizontal line. I went down along that left-hand side to the 1.5 squares below the horizontal 0. Then I went down to the bottom line, 3/4 of an inch over, and then I went around the right-hand side of my tag. I stopped 3/4 of an inch from the left-hand corner and then back down to the original point. Okay, so now since I have that little artwork, that we had that blue artwork in there, we can get rid of that. So right now I have my purchases or my software that I have showing down here at the bottom. I would like right now my sequence view to show here. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to click on the first tab, which is my sequence view, which shows the items that I have on my screen. Okay, so I don't need that square anymore, that rectangle that we originally drew. Remember, that was just artwork, and I don't need that anymore. I just needed it to draw my tag. So I'm going to select it by clicking on it in my sequence view, and I'm going to click delete on my keyboard. And then if I click over here on the white, all you'll see now is the red line that we used for our tacking line. Okay, so there is the shape of our tag. And we are going to, let's see, I have to select, okay, oh, that's right. So I have to select this. So I already drew. I don't really need to draw more than one time in this case, because I need this again to do something else. So we're going to select the running stitch again in the sequence view. And I'm going to go up to the top of the toolbar here where the little copy icon is. I'm going to copy that and then I'm going to paste it. And while it is still selected, I need this to be a different color though. So I have it copied and pasted, and you can see there's 2 runs down here in the sequence view, but I want the second one to be a different color. So I'm going to go down and right click on number 3 to change the color. Okay, so now I have two run stitches. I have a red one and I have a green one. Okay. Now this green one is going to be actually the satin stitch outline. So if we go back and look at our picture here quickly, you bring our picture back up. We also have the satin stitch. So I didn't have to redraw that. I just copied and pasted it, and we can make it into a satin stitch. So what we'll do is we're going to use the green one. So I've got the green one selected in my sequence view. With this green outline still selected, right click on it and choose convert to a steel. So I'm going to right click, and I'm going to, when the little thing comes up that says in the little menu, I should say, convert to, and I want a steel stitch. And a steel stitch is that satin stitch around the outside edge. So I'm going to click steel. And I want I'm going to change some of my properties, because now up here in the properties box, it's the steel properties that I can change, because that is the one that is selected. So I'm going to change the width to 3.5 millimeters. I want it a little wider, because we don't want it too wide because it's not a very big thing, but we want it to cover the edge nicely. So I'm going to make it 3.5, and I'm going to click apply. And I also, before I click apply, I like to inset my satin stitches just a little bit onto the fabric. So like right now, the inset is 50%. So in other words, half the stitch will be off the fabric and half will be on. I like it to be about 60%. So I want to move it in just a little bit. So on this inset number, I'm going to type in 60 because I want it to be just a little bit further in. Okay. So then, and I'm going to leave the corner type at square. That should be fine. And I've got the millimeters at 3.5. So now I can click apply. And you'll see that it will slightly change. It's wider, and also the satin stitches moved inward onto the fabric a little bit. I also need to put a tie in and a tie off on this to make sure that it doesn't come undone. So I can go back up here to the steel properties box. There is a little arrow on the top right. And if you if you click over a little bit, there's also a commands tab here because we've been there before, but you have to go over a little bit to get it. And I'm going to go ahead and tie in, basic, tie off, basic, and then I'm going to click apply again. So that way at the beginning and at the end, I'm going to get a good knot so that this won't come undone when I go to sew it out. Okay. Does anybody have questions so far? Is this making sense? So the first line, instead of a placement line, is actually a tack down line, because I made it so that, basically you just fill the little hoop, either the small hoop, this will fit in a 4x4 if you're just going to make one tag, or if you're going to put it in like 8x12 hoop, you can just kind of measure your hoop for the size of the fabric and lay it in there right at the beginning, so you don't have to have a placement line. If you want a placement line, I could have made a placement line by having a second run at the beginning, but in this case, we don't need it. We'll talk about the sewing at the end, so you'll understand that. So, okay. Now, I'm pretty happy with that. That looks pretty good. That's my basic tag. And now, though, I need to get the little hole, the little eyelet. Mine has a green line, a red line to the green and pink circle. That will be a jump stitch, Jackie. That'll probably be a jump stitch. It's okay. It looks weird on the screen, but I'm sure it's okay. All right, so we need to have our little eyelet on the left so that we can hang the tag. And so I'm going to go back up and get my artwork tool again, but this time, so it's that square, pencil, and circle. This time I want an ellipse, which is a circle, and I'm going to click on ellipse. And I'm going to use the grid to help me. Remember, these grids were 1/4 of an inch, remember? And I'd like about a 1/4 of an inch circle to help me. So I'm just going to use one of these grids to help me draw my circle. And if you want a perfect round circle, like if I just hold my mouse button down and like I did with the rectangle, just kind of start at the top, see how I can elongate the circle? Well, I would like it to be a perfect circle. So to get a perfect circle, you kind of start at the top left to where you want to go. And I'm going to hold my control key down, and I'm going to pull down to the bottom right, and then I get a perfect circle. Okay. So you can see I used my grid, and I've got about a 1/4 of an inch circle. It doesn't need to be exact. That should work just fine, though, the size. And then I'm going to, whoops, I got to turn my page for my notes here. All right. So we're going to go back up here to get our selection tool. So that way we can select that little round circle we just drew. And I want this to also be satin stitches. So I'm going to right click right on here, and I'm going to convert to, and I want to do this also a steel. So we have the satin stitches. We're going to go back to our properties box, and this one we're going to have the satin stitches be a little narrower because this is a pretty small hole. So I'm going to leave it at 2.5, and I left the inset at 50% on this one because I'm not going over the edge of a fabric. So I just left it at 50%, and I'm going to click apply. And then I'm going to go back to the commands tab. So again, I'm going to have to go up here to the top and click the little arrow to bring me over to where the commands tab is. Okay, and go to tie in, basic, tie off, basic, and apply. And I want the little circle to sew at the same time as my outline. So we need to make it the same color. So what I'll do is I'll go down here, but while it's still selected, and I'll right click on color number 3, because then it will sew with the outline of the tag. Okay, so now you can see over here in the sequence view that the tag outline and the little round circle outline are together. Okay. Now, the one thing I wanted to tell everybody, I had somebody ask me this the other day, and I'm going to review it again because we've talked about it before. But you notice that in the properties box, my tabs along the top have a word. And some of you may have an icon here. And I find it very difficult I can read a lot faster than I can hover my mouse. So I like to be able to read the words. So to get that, just so you know, we'll review that. And you go under Tools and General Options, and it's under View. And you can deselect the little show property tabs as icons. You can deselect that, and then it will show up as words. And I do that all the time. And if you have updated your software, sometimes it will revert back to the icons again. So then I have to go with deselect it again. So I just wanted to review that because a lot of people ask me about that. It's very difficult for me to, I mean, the hovering thing, it's so much faster if I can just read the word. So, okay. So we got a little off center, but that's okay. All right. So now I've got this little circle, but it's not really in the right place, is it? So we really want it to be, kind of over on the left. So I'm going to reach up here with my mouse. You get a little hand on the crosshair in the middle, and I'm going to pull it over here towards the left hand side, and I'm going to drop it around that 0 line like this. And I am going to, I think that looks pretty good. I don't want it too close to the edge because remember there is going to be satin stitches there, but I think that looks pretty good. If you need to nudge it a little bit, if you just hold your control key down and your arrow keys, you can go right to left or up and down. And the nodes of the center of the circle will show you where the center of that circle is horizontally. So I'm just kind of watching that. I'm leaving them on the 0 line, and I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to move it over this way just a little bit. That looks good. Okay, so you want to leave a little space in between the edge of the tag and the circle so that they don't go together. Okay, so that looks pretty good there. All right, so now we have our tag. So this is our basic tag. The first thing it's going to sew out is the tack down stitch. It's going to tack our fabric and stabilizer. There'll be some stabilizer on it as well. And then we are going to do some sewing of letters and stuff. And so we're going to be moving some things around again. And then at the very end, before we do the satin stitching, we'll trim around the outside edge. And then we will sew, we're actually going to add fabric to the back as well. So then we'll sew the satin stitch over and it'll cover up all those raw edges. Okay. So we've moved the circle to the left. Now we're going to add the lettering. So we've done some lettering before. To do the lettering, we are going to go up to and get the letter T, or the text tool. And I'm going to come down here to the center of my work area, and I'm just going to click. I'm going to left click on there. So now I have all on the properties box. I have all of my properties for the lettering there. Second, I got to turn the page again here. And I want to type in, I'm just going to type in the words Happy Holidays. So up here in the little box where the letter A is, I'm going to highlight my letter A, and I'm going to type Lynn's asking the difference between steel and satin. Satin is a fill, Lynn, and steel is like a straight line or an outline. So the satin is going to be like a fill. It's going to be a filled area. Does that make sense? And then the steel is an outline. Okay, so then we're going to make the letters, and we go up here. I'm going to highlight my letter A. and I'm going to type in, I'm going to capitalize the H. So I'm going to go happy. And I want to drop holidays down to the next line. So I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard, and then I'm going to type holidays. Okay. I am going to change the height of these letters so that they're not as big. Because right now they're like about 0.8 inches tall. So that's pretty big letters. That's going to be too big. So I want to change the height to about 0.38. That seemed to be about the size. I just kind of played around with the size to see what size would work. And you can make them any size you'd like. So let's try the height as 0.38. And I want to make my font Arial. I just chose a simple font. These are pretty small, so it's better to use the more simple fonts because it's very hard. They don't sew as well when the littler fonts sew better if they're a more plain font. So especially when they're real small. These aren't terribly small, so I could have chosen most of the fonts. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Arial. I just chose a simple font for this one. And the line spacing, there's line spacing and space. So the space is the horizontal spacing. Line spacing is between the lines. I want that to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to make this 50% so that some of the letters that droop down below the line will not touch each other. Okay. And then I'm going to click apply. So I have 50% line spacing. My height is 0.38 inches. And then I'm going to click apply down here. So now on my screen, I have happy holidays. So right now I can't see where I want to put this. So everything kind of scooched over. So if I go back up here to the zoom at the top, I can go ahead and click to fit, and then everything will show in the screen again. So it makes it a little easier. The other thing I have a little trouble with is inevitably, if I try to move my letters with the text tool selected, I always move a letter. So what I do when I need to move my letters is I'm going to go up here and hit the selection tool first and just get the whole unit selected together. The other thing is you notice that my letters are centered on one another. In the properties box, there is an alignment. You can center them. You can use left justification, right justification, just like most alignment tools in like a word processor. So that's also under align there. And I did not change it. It defaults at center, so I just left it at the default. Okay, so now we need to move these to where we want them. I'm going to go grab that. You get a little hand, and I'm going to go grab my letters, and I'm going to pull them over. I'm going to leave them at the top of the tag and just kind of put them where they look pleasing to me. That looks good. Let's try somewhere in there. Yeah, I think that looks good. Okay. Now there's a lot of really cool, there's a lot of really cool designs in this software. And a lot of people don't use them. I mean, I like to use the designs in here. I've used a lot of them, and they have these little things. This is something we probably have never used before, called symbols. And they're really tiny designs that they're very tiny designs that sew out very well because they're meant to be little. And that's what they are. They're called symbols. So we're going to access the symbols. There's a bunch of them in here. So I'm going to go up here to the top toolbar, and the symbol tool looks like this club. Okay, so it says symbol. And if I click on the little arrow next to it and I say select, this whole big box is going to open up with all these really cool symbols in it. And they're kind of in alphabetical order. And the one I'm looking for is a Christmas tree, because I wanted to make a Christmas tag. So I think it's under C, as I remember. I remember when I went to go to do this, I was like, where is the Christmas tree? Maybe it's just under tree. Well, I may have to hunt for it again because I can't remember. Well, let's see here. Present. Was it under tree? I remember having to look for it. I think I went past it. Let's see, bird, bow, because they're in roughly alphabetical order here. Cactus, it's not a cactus. There's candles. Candles would have been cute too. So there's all kinds of different things. Christmas tree. Oh, here it is. It is under Christmas tree, but they put a little underscore in it, so it put it in a done it put it in under a different in a different spot, someplace I wasn't looking for it. So here's Christmas tree. Okay, so there's my little symbol. And what's cool about this, yeah, it's under C. Yeah, I thought it was, but I remember when I went to look for it, it's like, no, wait a minute, am I in the right place? So they did put the underscore in it. Okay, so I'm going to select that and I'm going to click OK. But when I come down here, there's no tree. So this is different. The symbols work differently. So what I'm going to do is, you notice that I've got like a little square on my cursor. So hopefully you can see this. And every place that I click, I will get a Christmas tree. So the symbols kind of work differently. So I'm just going to kind of click down here. I want 3 trees, and they kind of roughly stay where you put them, but they don't always line up. So we're going to fix that. So I'm just going to click and put 3 Christmas trees in there because I wanted 3 Christmas trees. And then I'm going to, I have to make sure that I get them again each time okay, yep, I added my 3 Christmas trees. Make sure I didn't miss something here. But you know, my trees aren't exactly lined up the way I want them yet. And so there's some new tools in here that have really been nice. So I'm going to go and get my selection tool first before I try to do this. And I'm going to select the first tree. I'm going to hold my control key down and select the second tree. And actually, I'm going to do something else first. I want my trees to be a little bit closer together. Let's see, I think that looks good. Yeah, I think that looks good, but they're not very evenly distributed yet. So I'm going to go ahead now. I just moved the one in a little bit. Let's do the control key and select the second one and the third one. And there's a really cool tool in this software up on the toolbar up here that says, that's called, whoops, second here. I didn't hover well enough. Let me go back. It's called distribute horizontally. So you want the first one and the last one to be basically where you want them. And then if you find distribute horizontally, which is on the toolbar, I click that and you'll notice that my middle tree moved over. So now they are spaced evenly. You just have to make sure your first one and your last one are where you want them, and then they will distribute evenly. I also want to make sure that they're all lined up so that there's not one like above the other or anything. So with them all selected like that, I'm going to go down and I'm going to have them align at the bottom. So I'm just going to click align bottom, and a couple of them move down a little bit. So that looks pretty good. They're all pretty much all lined up now. And I'm going to go grab the 3 of them together, and I'm just going to kind of move them to where I want them under my letters here. So see if I can kind of get them lined up where I want. That looks pretty good. And there's my little trees. So we talked about the distribute horizontally tool, the symbols, which are really cool. And you saw all those cool symbols in there. There was just tons of them in there. And they're all very small and they sew out really nicely. So, but they're very small designs. Like these little trees are about less than a half an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch tall. They're very, very small. And if you make these much bigger, they don't sew out well. They get very sparse. So they were made to sew very small. Okay. So there's a lot of them in here. Okay. So there's our little trees. Now I would like some of my colors to be different. I decided that I wanted the outline to be gold and I want my letters to be red. And so I've been, I think I put a picture up on the other group. I've been using the brother thread. We just got these 2 beautiful racks of brother thread. There's like 314 or 15 colors now of brother thread. And so I've been using that thread a lot. So I'm going to change my colors to the brother thread. And that's one of the things I get a lot of questions about. How do I change the colors? So what we're going to do is I want to change the colors of the design. I'm going to click on color number 2, which is my outline color. That was that outline that tack down outline. I'm going to click on that. So I'm going to actually, let me look at my notes here. I can't remember what I wrote. They're very sketchy. Sorry, guys. Oh yeah, the color 2 was the outline. So it's sort of like the tack down line, and it doesn't really matter what color that one is. So I'm going to leave that one alone. Because we need to have it stop between color number 1 and color number 2 so that we can do something to it. So that's why I will leave that one alone. And then color number 3, that steel stitch, I would like that one to be my gold. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the little box down here. I'm going to left click on the number 3 color box. And then I would like that to be a gold, which is 214 or deep gold in the brother. So I'm going to choose 214, deep gold, and I'm going to click OK. So now the outline around the outline around my tag and then the little circle are gold. Okay. And then I would like color number. Let's see what the colors are. Oh, you know what? Let's do something else. That sometimes this helps. Right now there's a little thing in front of some of my colors, but when I brought in the little trees, it brought in some more colors also because those trees are digitized in a different color. Palette, I should say. So I'm going to get rid of some of these colors so I can just work with the ones that are actually there. And to do that, I'm going to go way down at the bottom on the right-hand side here, where that negative line is, that red negative line. I'm just going to click that, and that's going to remove all the colors I'm not using. So I'm just going to click that right now. So that got me down to 4 colors, which is really nice. Then I can just deal with what I've got that I'm working with. Okay. So I would like my lettering to be red. And so that is color number, let's see here, what color number it is. Is it number 1? Yeah, it's color number 1 since I got rid of the extras. So I'm going to just change that to red. It will change the outline at the beginning to red, and that's perfectly fine. So my red in my brother colors is 800. So I'm going to change that to 800. So now I have my red letters and I have my gold outline. That first color is red, and that is fine. So that first outline that we did will be that color as well, but that's fine. Okay. Then I want to, whoops, turn my page. And then I would like to make my tree and my base in brother colors. So right now they're in, I don't know if you can see it on my screen, but right now they're in Madeira rayon. And so I would like the brown for the little trunk, which is color number 3 on here, to be 323. So right now it's Madeira rayon. I'm going to change it to brother, and I need the brother embroidery colors, and I'm going to change it to number 323, which I know is light brown. And then I want the green trees, which will be color number 4 over here. I'm going to click on that one. And again, it's in Madeira rayon. So I would like it to be, I'm going to change it then to brother embroidery. And I'm going to change it to number 507, which is the emerald green. Oops, so if I didn't type, there we go, 507, which is the emerald green. And I'm going to click OK. So now my tag is the colors that I would like it to be. All right. And that way we got rid of some of the colors before we started doing this. It just makes it easier for us to see what everything is. All right. So this is an in the hoop project, or applique, basically, is what it is. So we need to change the order of how things are going to sew, because right now things are not sewing in correct order, because we're going to put a backing on this. So we need to have things, we need to move things around a little bit so that things will sew the way we want them. Okay. So I'm making sure I didn't miss a step. I have to back up a page here because I make sure I didn't miss a step. Got the symbols, got that. Okay, I got it. Okay. So what we're going to do, the lettering and the trees need to sew first, then the outline, then the steel. So yes, Jackie, you can go back and add it. And then we just need to move it to the top. Okay. But we're actually going to move some things around. So just see where I'm going to move things. So remember I told you that when I did this, I didn't do a placement line and then a tack down line because everything could sew at the same time. And I just made my fabric basically fill my hoop. So I need the lettering and the trees to sew first because I want to sew all the cool stuff in the center first and the tack down line. And then I mean, and that because the tack down line is also going to tack down the backing fabric. Okay. So it's fine that you can just sew all the stuff in the middle and then do the tack down lines. All right. So that's how I did these. It was just, I tried to make it as simple as possible because I was making a bunch of them. So right now I want to bring my letters, which is my words. I'm going to bring my letters first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this down and let's pull this up a little bit so you can see a little better. I'm just going to pull up here so you can see my sequence view a little bit better. I'm going to grab my letters and I'm going to pull them all the way to the top. Okay. Now they kind of combined with that first outline, and that's okay because I also want my trees to go up there. So I want the trees. I'm going to select all my trees and I'm going to pull them up right under. I'm going to go highlight the letters and then drop my trees on there because then that drops my outline and my satin stitch to the bottom. So see, we have the red um, letters, and then we have the trees that have the trees and the tree trunks are going to sew next. Okay. And then the outline that's going to tack all the fabric down and show me where I have to trim because I have to trim around these. And then the steel stitches. Okay. And then the other thing I like to do is you can, if you need to, I think this one's going to be fine, but we're going to do some resequencing when we get ready to make this into more than one design. So all of my trees right now, if you look at the trees, there's two colors. And you can see that they're grouped over here. So there's a brown and then a green and then a brown and then a green and then a brown and a green. Well, that's kind of annoying to have to change all those colors all the time. So if I go back up here to edit and resequence by color, then you'll look and I'm gonna have to change one thing again because it moved my run around here again and we need to move this back. So I'm going to pull that run back down to underneath my trees because I knew when I did that it would do that. And yes, you could, well, Nancy, if you tack, in this case, I didn't do a placement line. So if I tack down first, I need to also tack down, I tried to make it as few steps as possible. If I tack down at the beginning, I need backing on this. So I want all the lettering and all the trees to sew before the backing is tacked on, and you can tack everything down at the same time. So hopefully that makes sense. When I show you how I sewed it, then you'll understand. So the order needs to be the letters, the tree trunks, the trees, and then the outline, and then the satin stitches. because I sewed this, I tried to make it as few steps as possible, and I tacked everything down at the same time. Okay, because you put something on the back and you have something in the hoop. Okay, so I'm gonna turn my page. And this will be your single design. So it would sew out the letters, and then it will sew out the trees, and then it would sew out the outline, because you're going to have to put something on the back, and then it would sew out the satin stitches after you trim. So you have to have it stop in between these things, okay? So this is the single one, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to go up to File and Save As, and I'm just going to call this Happy Holidays. And I'm going to save this as, I'm going to put it on my desktop. I'm going to save this as a C2S file, which is my working file, so I can go back and change this if I want. And I'm going to click Save. If you want to sew one gift tag at a time, you may now save the tag in your format. So, you know, if I was just going to do one tag in a little 4x4 hoop, this is, oh, you can't. You can't, Denise, you're going to have to clip them. Those are, I don't know why it did that, and it did that years ago, and it must be something to do with the way the trees sew, the direction they sew, because they've always had those lines in between there. So you'll just have to clip them. They're very long and they're very easy to clip. So if you want to sew just this one tag, then you would go back up to File, Save As, and then you would create the same name, and then you would tell it to be a PES file to put in your machine. In this case, I'm not going to do that this time. I don't want to do one. I'm going to do more. So I knew that I wanted to do a whole bunch of these. So there's a really cool tool in here that we can use to make a bunch of these at a time, and then it quickly fills a hoop. Okay. So to order to use this thing, there's a they call it a repeat tool, and so to use this, we need to go back to millimeters because of the distance between these items. It's easier in millimeters. So I'm going to go back up to the ruler bar again. I've got my tag up here, and I've got it in the order I want it. So I'm going to right click on that ruler bar again. I'm going to go back to metric for a little bit. And then I'm going to select a hoop. And I knew that I wanted to do these on my PR. So one of my bigger hoops on my PR is my 8x12. So I knew I could get probably about 10 tags in there. Okay. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to choose my hoop. Now we need to have a place for these tags to go. So on my machine, or on my computer, I should say, my screen's rather small. And if you go, you can't see the hoop icon on my left-hand side. So there's 3 little dots way down here towards the bottom. And if I click that, then I can see my hoop because my screen's just small on this computer. And I would like to choose my 200 by 300 hoop, which is the 8x12. Okay. So I'm going to choose that 200 by 300 hoop, and I'm going to click OK. And it's going to bring the hoop up on my screen with my tag in the center of it. Okay, so now what we're getting ready to do is to put a whole bunch of tags in this hoop. And I needed my parameters, so I knew where I was going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit, and I'm going to select all. So I have the entire tag selected. And then I'm going to move that to roughly the top kind of left-hand corner, like that. And now I'm going to use this cool repeat tool so that I can fill my hoop with all these tags. So I'm going to go under the tools menu, and I'm going to go down to the word repeat. And when I do that, there's going to be a little box that's going to show up with all of my tags in it. I want to have 2 rows. You know, I'm doing this instead of for my PR. Let me bring this down again. So like I left my hoop in the upright position, like for the home machines, because I actually sewed these on my home machine this time. If I wanted to do these on the PR, when I chose my hoop, you know, the hoops on the PR go the other direction. The long ways is horizontal. So I could have chosen the hoop, whoops, second here, and then I could have rotated that hoop. So here's my 8 by 12, and then I could have rotated it 90 degrees. So I'm just going to leave it upright because I'm thinking of home machines, because a lot of you have home machines. Okay. So we'll just leave it in the upright position. I'll go back and get my tag, select all, and bring it up towards the top here. Okay. So we need to go back to tools. Whoops, I'm sorry, edit. And sorry, tools, everybody, and repeat. Then in this case, since I'm doing the horizontal direction, I'm going to do 2 tags across. And I think when I did it in the other one, I did 3. Okay. So, or 5. And then I'm going to do 5 down because I've got it upright. So number down is going to be 5. So I've got 2 across and 5 down because I wanted to put 10 in my hoop. And then in this horizontal distance, I needed to have about 6 millimeters or so, because there needs to be a little space in between the letters, okay, or in between the tags, so that I can trim. So I'm going to put about 6 millimeters in here, and you could have done this probably in inches, but I learned it in millimeters, so I just used millimeters. Okay. And then I want this to be auto sequence. So the other thing is, so then if you auto sequence here again, everything will stay in the same order, so you don't have to do one tag at a time. It'll do all the tags, you know, all of the red, all of the green, all of the brown, and then do the outlines. So it'll stay in the same order. So there's a little button down here that says auto sequence by color. Okay. And once I click that, there's my tags. I've got 10 tags there. And then I'm going to click OK. And let's look and see what happens. Look, there's 10 tags. They're all selected. I need them now to be centered again. So I'm going to go back up to my ruler bar. Remember how we did this earlier? Go to my ruler bar and go down to center origin. And then it'll put them into the center of my hoop. And there are my 10 tags. So now I have all 10 of them. And if you look on the sequence view, it's going to sew out, whoops, if I get it to deselect there, it'll sew out all the red letters, then it'll sew out all the green or the little brown trunks of the tree, and then it's going to sew out all the trees, and then it's going to do the outline. So then it'll do the outline. The machine will stop because in between the trees sewing and this outline, you got to take the hoop out of the machine, flip it over, and put a piece of fabric on the back, and then it's going to click sew this outline out, and then it's going to stop again so that I can trim the fabric, you know, around each one of the tags on the front and the back. And then you'll put it back in the machine and it'll do all the satin stitching and it'll cover it up. So you're going to do this on tearaway stabilizer. And then you can just pop these right out of the tearaway stabilizer. It works really great. So everything, as you can see, is in the right sequence over here. And I'm ready to save this. So I want to save this so I can do 10 of them at a time. I'm going to go File, Save As. I'm going to call it Happy Holidays 10 and just give it a different name. I'm going to also save this as a C2S file on my desktop. But this one I'm definitely going to save as a PES file. So I'm going to go File, Save As. And I'm going to change the name the same, but I'm going to change to PES version 9 and click Save again. So then it's a PES file. So I uploaded a file to the group. You will have the C2S file and a PES file of all 3 of those tags that I showed you, and also the single C2S files. So you will have all of those files that you can make your own tags, okay? So let's see, make sure I didn't miss anything here. Got the saving done. Okay, so we've got our tags made. Now, are there any questions? I missed what you did with the run under the text. Okay, so what I do, let's talk about the sewing now. And this is the other thing that's in that folder that I uploaded. It's called Embroidered Gift Tags, and it's on the Dropbox on the group. So let's talk about the sewing. So I think then we'll go through the steps, and I think it'll make more sense. So you need to have a piece of Kona cotton. I used Kona because it works real well with the pigment pens, you know, like the Sharpie pens. So I used white Kona cotton, and I cut it the size of my hoop. So I basically, you know, since I wanted to do 10 of these, I kind of measured my hoop, and I don't even remember exactly how big I cut it, but I just kind of measured my hoop so that it would lay down in the hoop. Okay. And then I fused a piece of medium cutaway fusible to the back of it. So I made two of those. I made one for the front and one for the back. So there's two pieces of Kona cotton that are like the size of the hoop with the the medium cutaway fusible. So that heavier cutaway that fuses to the fabric. So you're going to have a piece of it on the backing and a piece on the top. Okay. All you're going to put in the hoop is you're going to hoop a piece of tearaway in the hoop. All right. Then what I did is I took the one of the pieces of Kona with the medium cutaway adhered to it, and I took fabric glue stick and I put it on the top of the hoop, and I glue sticked that piece of fabric with the medium cutaway into the middle of the hoop. So that's the first thing I did before I started sewing. Okay. Then I started the first part of the design. I sewed out all the happy holidays. So it sews all the happy holidays and all the tags. And then it sews all the little stems to the trees. And then it sews all of the little trees. Okay. Then I need to stop after it does the little trees. Before I go on to step number 4, which is that outline, I have to take the hoop out of the machine, flip it over on the back, and I need to take fabric glue stick again and stick the backing on the back of the hoop because I also want to tack that down. Okay. Then I put the whole, and I just make sure it's stuck on very well. I flip it back over, put it back in the machine, and then I do number 4, which is that tack down line. And it's going to be the tack down and the trimming line for both the front and the back of the tags. Then I'm going to take the hoop back out of the machine again, and I'm going to trim around those tags. So all the tags, I trim all the way around and on the front and the back. Don't forget there's backing fabric too. So we need it off the front and the back. Trim it, and then you're going to put it back in the machine to stitch out number 5. And I have that in the instructions for the sewing, so that'll make more sense. So that's why the tack down is later, because you don't need to tack down around, you know, for the letters and stuff. You can just let them sew on the top fabric with it glued down to the stabilizer. It works great. And then you need to bring the hoop out, put the backing on, and then tack everything down so you can trim on the front and the back, because we're working with the back this time and not just the front. Okay. So that is the embroidered gift tag construction. So I also put that on in that same file so you can see the actual sewing steps. So I used Kona cotton fabric, cut to the size of my hoop. If you're just doing one, it's about, you know, you're going to cut a square about 4 by 4, put the medium cutaway fusible on both pieces. You know, you need 2 pieces of fabric and 2 pieces of cutaway. Adhere it, and then you'll do the front and then put the back on the little one too. So sometimes I'll just do one. I actually did sew out 10 when I did this last time. So Okay, does everybody understand now why the outline is lower in the design? Does that make sense to everybody? I know I love to do the multiples this way. It's very fast, Barb, to do multiples, because then if you have a design, all you have to do is select that design, go to tools and repeat, and then you can do as many as you want in your hoop. You can fill your hoop. The SF101, Denise, probably is not stiff enough. I use the medium cutaway because it was stiffer, and you want your gift tag to have a little body to it. So I did not use shape flex. I don't think it's going to be quite stiff enough with the shape flex. I'd use the tearaway or the cutaway medium. That's why I use that. Now, like I said, when I first got this design years ago, they were done with a piece of cardstock on the back, and I could never keep the cardstock in the tags. Every time I made them, they would just fall apart. So that's why I added the fabric and kind of redid the way I did the tags. And I like the fabric because you can write on the fabric with your Sharpie markers. It worked really well. And I usually just wrote people's names on them, on the backs. Okay, so are there any other questions? Does this make sense to everybody how I did that? That resequence by color, I resequenced by color in the individual design to start out. Yes. So in the input, it's going to be though whatever was selected previously. So like right now, if I do input now, it's just going to do the little tree again. So we didn't have the tree selected at the beginning. So that's why I wanted to choose the drop down arrow and select, because I didn't have the item selected. It will default to whatever was selected last. Does that make sense, Jackie? With the input tool. So if you need to go back and input another one, then like if I needed more trees, then it would already be selected. But I needed to select the one I wanted first. Okay, any other questions? This was a fun little project. I hadn't made these for a long time, and they turn out really good. And they're very easy. And it's just a nice little, special little gift that you can put on you can put on people's gifts. And you can make 10 at a time. It goes pretty quick. The hardest part is just doing the clipping, doing the, it takes a little while to trim around them. Now, I think you probably could cut these out with a scan and cut and then put them inside the placement lines. But I hesitate to do that when I'm working with something on the back, because things always scoot on me when I put things on the back. So that's why I didn't cut these out with a scan and cut. I just trim them in the hoop, because then I know everything exactly where I want it. Now, I know a couple of you have smaller machines, and you can still use that repeat tool in your smaller machine, but just pick the smaller hoop, and you may have to put the tags just a little closer together. These tags, as I remember, let me just select it. Oops, I have to get my selection tool. There we go. If I can get rid of my tree again, get my selection tool. If you go and check your size of the tags, like these are, I'm going to go back to inches here, change back to inches so I can tell. These are about 6.46 by 10.53. So it's just a little bit too big, like say for a 6 by 10 hoop. So what you can do is you can still get, I think, 10 and a 6 by 10, but you'll have to leave them a little closer together. It's a little harder to trim them, but you can still get, I think you can still get 10 in. At least 8 by, at least 8 for sure, if you have a smaller hoop. So, but yeah, I would use the medium cutaway. What thread do you select for the new metallic? I don't know that it's in here. Let's see. Do they have the Kingstar metallic in here yet? Yes, they do. So it's under Kingstar. So if you left click on one of the boxes at the bottom and you go to Kingstar, just go down to K, it's right there. So there's the Kingstars. I think the metallics are in here unless they must have Kingstar thread too. So that there's a lot of threads there. Let's see if they have a metallic. Let's try this. Nope, they may not. They have King Star. They must have also have embroidery thread. So they must not have the metallics in here yet. Don't see it. I would like to email them and ask them if they could do a few color charts. Um, because some of the like the brother, did you notice that the brother colors, when I was using the brother colors, there's only 60. They've never updated it to show some of the new colors. So I'm hoping that maybe they'll update some of these thread charts because they really need to add some colors to them. So no, King Star is not, they must have actually a King Star must also have an embroidery thread. So the King Star threads are the embroideries, not the metallics. What hoop size is this, Mitzi? This is I chose an 8x12. So it's like 200 by 300, but yours is going to be 160 by 260. 160 by 260. That is I can check it here. You have a smaller hoop, you're 6x10. Let me check it. I think it's 160 by 260. That's the only one. I don't use that one as much, so I forget. 160 by 260 is the one you need to choose. So you just have to make your tags a little closer together to get them in there. But you can still get 2 rows, and then you might only be able to get 8 instead of 10, but that still is a lot of tags. I think you can only do 8 then. Okay. All right. So any other questions? So we won't have a software class in December. We're going to have a embroidery class the first Sunday in December. And we're going to do some of the extra things the from the We Wish You a Merry Christmas book, because there was a couple really cute projects in the back. And so we're going to do that the first Sunday in December. And then we won't have class on until the first Sunday, or maybe it might be the second Sunday in January, because the first Sunday is like really early. So we may actually end up doing the second Sunday in January, but we won't have a software class until January. So is there any questions? Did everybody get their questions answered? This is a very fun little project, and it's I hope I made sense while I was going through it. If you have questions, call me, because it's been a while since I've done this, and I have to think through a bunch of pages of scrawled notes here when I do it. But it's very fun, and these are really easy to do, and you can make, like I said, the other ones I did were really cute. So here's some of the other ones I made. Just Merry Christmas, Let It Snow. But just be aware when you're choosing fonts, that the letters are pretty small. So choose ones that are going to sew out well, and don't get them too intricate, because the little letters, you have to be a little more careful and choose smaller font, more plain fonts, and they sew out better. There's also some small micro fonts in the software now. When this design was done years ago, there weren't any of those smaller fonts, and there are some in the software now. So you could choose some of these littler ones. So if I go up here and look at my fonts, there's actually some smaller ones when you go down a little ways. I got to find them. They are, yeah, so there's some that are called like Arial small, Boss House small, Brush small. So those are actually really small fonts that would sew out really well. And these letters are actually on the large side for those small fonts. So most of the time I just pick one of the regular fonts and just don't get a too busy one. Okay. So that's kind of neat, because they have a lot of different fonts now that they didn't used to have. So, okay. So if there's no other questions, we'll be done for the evening. Thank you so much for spending your beautiful Sunday evening with me. And if you have any questions about it, email me or text me. And then also go download all the files and the sewing instructions off the group in Dropbox. So have a good evening, everybody. Thank you so much.